Hey guys, so earlier I did a video basically, trying to tell people not to be total tools online if they can help it, and talking about my channel and the direction it's taking. I want to make sure that my channel is, for the most part, staying on more positivity versus negativity, which of course is the direction it tends to go when you get into politics, culture wars, and social issues. So I totally stand by everything I said earlier, but I do want to make a small amendment. I would like to reserve the ability to continue to rip on government officials and politicians as I see fit, particularly when they're being total arrogant arses. So tonight I would like to do a little rant about Justin Trudeau, if you guys don't mind. And what am I mad at Justin Trudeau about? Well, a whole bunch of things, whole bunch of things. But in particular, I'm mad at him right now about something that I've actually been kind of upset about for like months. But I wasn't really ready to just do a video on it. Even in the past, 7 weeks I've been doing videos. Just hasn't come up, haven't had the rage to really fuel the fire. So I basically read an article this morning in the Toronto Star. Now, why would I read the Toronto Star? Only for the sake of trying to figure out how much rhetoric the MSM is putting out on Maxime Bernier right now. My partner and I were just curious to hear of some of the things that were being said. So I'm just going to find the article here for you. And basically, she talks about the immigration policies that he's putting forward and discussing how he wants people to espouse Canadian values, including equal rights. So I will quote you some of this article, very, very little, because I would hate to make you guys nauseous. I kind of like you guys. So he expects immigrants and refugees to share Canadian values such as the equality of men and women, end quote, which, yes, he said, but he does not mention helping women, she says. In the next paragraph, she continues to say that the PPC caters to insecure, rural, white, gun owning men. I'm not going to get as much into that side because there will be a gun rights and rural gun discussion that I will have at some point in the future, and maybe a song as well, but not tonight. But I did find it interesting that, of course, the white men come into there because, white men, you guys are the worst. You just can't do anything right, patriarchy or whatever. All right, so why is this bugging me? It's just a Toronto Star article. Shouldn't matter. It's just some stupid, obviously left-leaning, biased opinion article, no less, which, by the way, I have put in the description below if you do want to read the rest. I know it's just an article, but it's not just an article, guys. It's costing a ton of money. And I don't know if you guys know how much money. It's not that easy to find. If you go to the actual government page, which again will also be in the description, it's very difficult to find the numbers that were put into this budget, but you sure do find like page after page after page of mind-numbing, boring, awful information and justification for these numbers being so high. A lot of statistics that I don't feel are, I'm not saying they're inaccurate, I don't feel that they matter at all. They show very little except that people are different, but maybe that's just my ignorant, woman hating, misogynist opinion. I don't know. So I'm going to get into just the statistics of this and the numbers and why perhaps everybody should care about this issue. So just to read out some of the numbers that are coming up from the 2018 budget for the gender parity, gender equality programs and policy. It is in the description below, should you want to read all those words. Have fun. $100 million over 5 years towards grants, programs regarding gender equality, $1.8 million over 2 years to develop a strategy to encourage men and boys to support those programs. $6.7 million over 5 years, plus an additional $600,000 per year after that, every year, for Stats Canada to set up a Centre for Gender, Diversity and Inclusion Stats. $5.5 million over 5 years for college-based violence as it pertains to gender, so studying that. $19.9 million over 5 years to pilot an apprenticeship incentive grant for male-dominated skilled trades such as welders, pipe fitting, mechanics, electricians, etc. On a side note there, I have looked into these programs personally a few years ago, and I could have sworn there was a ton of bursaries and scholarships for women that were going into this. There was already a lot of preferential treatment and some, affirmative action type things. I'm pretty sure that was already a thing like at least 10 years ago, if not longer. And I think also the women that do go into this who are quite awesome at it and usually kick some ass, I gotta say, they're really good at their jobs and they go into it because they want to, and a lot of women just don't want to. And statistically, I think they said it was 4% in this policy page. But and I guess that's probably right, but I don't think that it matters. I don't think that that's really like a mind-numbing alarm bell stat, but that's my opinion. I digress. So back to the numbers. $1.4 billion. This is billion, not million, over 3 years for business development bank for financing female entrepreneurs. 105 mil over 5 years to help regional development for support for women who own a business or are starting a business. 2 billion over 5 years for humanitarian international. This is now an international stat, so humanitarian feminist endeavors, and another international somewhat stat. $20.3 million over 5 years to settle 1,000 more refugee women and girls from conflict areas, so places that do have severe, probably human rights issues or in war zones, etc. So even without those last two stats, we're looking at about $2.6 billion if you do include those because I am talking, of course, just of domestic women's rights. If you include those numbers, it's about $3.2 billion. So that's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money for something that, quite honestly, I don't think a lot of women in Canada believe is a problem. Things like the wage gap. I think a lot of people would argue that there's a fair number of statistics to show that there are a lot of reasons for the wage gap, if there is a wage gap. And I think I could go on about that for a long time, and I'm not going to. I think there's so many reasons. I encourage you guys to put some in the comments below. I'm guessing that you guys all have some ideas of why maybe women might not make as much as men sometimes, and they're generally pretty obvious. So, I don't know. I don't know why this is seen as a priority in our country. I don't know why this money can't be spent on anything else, anything at all. Because let's say you do believe this is a huge, huge deal, which I don't, which obviously Max Bernier doesn't, but Justin Trudeau does, I guess, and of course all of his lovely, perfectly gender balanced, cabinet of staff. Even if you think it's super important, it's not as important under any circumstances as so many other issues like, I don't know, healthcare and veterans affairs and pensions and, I don't know, pharmacare, disability, infrastructure, education, yada, yada, yada. Any number of things could be deemed more important than this, logically. But this money just gets poured out anyway. And, as far as helping women, I don't know. I've needed help from my government before, and it had nothing to do with me being a woman or any appendages that I lacked. It had to do with me being sick and ill, and that was a barrier to proceeding in my life. Obviously, pretty standard, pretty measurable. Being a woman, no, that didn't factor in. Privilege, whatever I guess you could call it. Again, that's another video. I had a good family that, made me feel like I could be something that I wanted to be, just because I was a woman didn't matter. But that has nothing to do with being a woman. I'm not at a disadvantage in Canada. I live in a beautiful country that I am blessed to live in, where I don't have to worry about things like female genital mutilation, which people still sometimes have to deal with. I don't have to worry about any sort of, I guess, man censoring me or not allowing me to speak. I'm on YouTube right now, you guys, talking to you about very divisive issues. And it's okay. I'm allowed to. I'm allowed to wear what I'm wearing. I am allowed to work where I want to work and be with who I want to be with in a relationship. I'm allowed to be free. I'm free. And I think people in Canada that don't appreciate that really got to give their head a shake. These women have no freaking idea at all. If you don't believe me, I'll leave a link below for One Godless Woman's channel, and she will tell you all about it. And brace yourself, because it's not a pretty story to hear, and she's going to tell you some things in a way that's going to hit you in the feels. So it's very real, guys, and it's not real here, though. I mean, it could be in the future if certain things continue to go down a bad road, but right now, Canada, women are free, and these sort of articles do nothing but divide women and men. They say nothing of toxic femininity and the problems that women cause and all the perks that women get and all the things that women say they want to be equal in men at, but they couldn't hack it. No offense, but there's a lot of things that men do that sometimes women just physically aren't you know, the same as. Like, it's just, there's differences. We complement each other. That's okay, right? I find it very difficult because I think it's wrecking our culture. And I think it's messing with men. And I think I've met enough men to know that, you know, they've had bad experiences too. It's not just men are pigs. Women sometimes clean men out financially. Sometimes women are gold diggers. Sometimes women are really passive aggressive. Sometimes women can be really shallow and really catty and really difficult to work with, to be quite honest with you. Sometimes, not all women. I have lots of women friends. I have beautiful women friends. I'm just saying, there's crappy people in every gender, in every demographic. Enough with the division and these stupid policies and this amount of money that we're spending on this stuff. It's got to stop. It's ridiculous. So in my opinion, if we get a politician, whether it's Bernie or anybody else, that says nothing about helping women and just treats people with respect equilaterally and or unilaterally and really does actually just consider us, you know, like everyone else, because hey, if I could just speak for myself, I'm not a victim because I'm a girl. I'm just a Canadian citizen and I want to work my hardest to be the best person I can. Life is tough and I'm struggling through it like everyone else. And I just think that anybody that doesn't focus on that, good. It means they're not vote pandering. It means that they're not looking at life through a weird gender lens, which I don't think is helpful at all. On Monday night, I'm going to be having on an awesome gal who was an ex-feminist and went through the whole gamut of kind of being indoctrinated into that and has a really cool perspective. She has since left that, and she's got really great insight to what makes people think this way in this very, very black and white, gender-based, you know, intersectionality way. Should be really awesome. If you guys want to tune in, there'll be more information and stuff, you know, alerts coming up for that. That's about all I have to say for tonight. Until next time, as always, be good to each other, not because the government tells you to, but with an addendum on this one. You can totally be a jerk to Justin Trudeau right now. I totally condone that. I mean, you know, be civil and stuff, but let him know that we're not happy. We pay his frickin' salary, so enough is enough. And as a strong Canadian female, I say good evening to you all, and take great care.